जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेफ टॉक संडे आफ्टरनून। लेट्स ट्राई एंड अंडरस्टैंड दुनिया में हो क्या रहा है भाई। हर जगह जंग, हर जगह केओस। कहीं पे रायट तो कहीं पे आग, कहीं पे मणिपुर तो कहीं पे फ्रांस। और अभी जर्मनी एंड नेदरलैंड्स के अंदर भी थोड़ी सी आग लगनी शुरू हो गई है। यूक्रेन तो चल ही रहा है और भी बहुत कुछ गड़बड़ घोटाला दिखना शुरू हो गया है। अफ्रीका में एक कंट्री में नाइजर के अंदर कू हो गया ऑलरेडी। ताइवान और चाइना काफी कुछ देखी टगिंग अलोंग। अभी
Yeah.
ताइवान का इलेक्शन आने वाला है, काफी कुछ है उसमें। ये दुनिया में हो क्या रहा है, कौन है ये लोग, और ये कौन है ये लोग, इसके बारे में डेफ टॉक्स में हमने बात करी है। आज थोड़ा सा और घुसते हैं उसके अंदर। देखिए, ये जो चीजें हम लोग बात करते हैं, इसको बोलते हैं ना, दूध में से ऊपर से मलाई निकालना। एक लेयर निकली है, फिर आप दूध को ठंडा करेंगे और मलाई निकलेगी। तो ये हर एक जगह पे आप एक एक लेयर करके आप निकालेंगे तो आपको पूरा पिक्चर पता पता चलेगा। In one podcast, it is very difficult to explain the entire story. So we are doing multiple podcasts on Dev Talks to understand what the world is happening in this world. On that note, I have with me Mr. Arindam Mukherjee, who's here for the second time on Dev Talks. Firstly, good afternoon. Thank you so much and namaskar. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Namaskar. Thank you for inviting me. Third time actually.
Third time, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
second time
This
for both
this
of
is a
us.
this is the third
Yeah,
time in Tech Talk.
awesome. So nice to have you on this Sunday. Yaar. Kafi, what's
Same,
happening
yeah.
in
Good
this
to be
world, yeah?
back. Well, there's, as you rightly said, there's a lot of things. In fact, I'm planning a write-up on Niger, an opinion editorial, which is probably going to come out sometimes next week. I'm writing
Yo,
for the New Indian. So that's an interesting place actually because France is heavily dependent on Niger. The bulk of France's uranium goes to. In fact, I was going through a World Bank report. I mean, XYZ tons of uranium. I don't remember the actual number, but the number will come, of course, in the article that I write eventually. XYZ tons of uranium gets mined from Niger every year. This is 2019 or 2018 ka report, out of which, would you believe, just about 10 kgs, 5 kgs to Canada and 4 kgs to Romania. The rest, entire dump, goes to France.
वाह, करता क्या है भाई फ्रांस इतने?
Now the interesting part is France has got a very robust uranium enrichment process. France's electricity supplies, 70% of electricity supplies comes from nuclear fuel.
न्यूक्लियर पान।
There was a point in time when France was actually thinking थोड़ा कम कर दे उसको 50% कर दे, so we have some surplus. And any which way, France is the most profitable electricity surplus nation in European
हाँ,
Union.
सेल्फ सफिशिएंट है भाई। ही इज वन थिंग इज देयर, यू आर राइट, सेल्फ
The
सफिशिएंट इन
exports
मोस्ट ऑफ थिंग।
and electricity surplus, they export it
या
to different EU countries, and they make about 3 billion euros or 13 billion euros or something. All these numbers will come in the article that I write, and they were so good, and they were doing so good actually. इसके निजर के पेट पे लात मार के, that they thought that इसको थोड़ा कम करके, we let us export some more enriched uranium, some more surplus electricity to different countries of European Union. 2022, which is like यूक्रेन शुरू हो गया, नॉर्थ स्ट्रीम को ब्लास्ट करा दिया, उसके बाद इसने देखा कि यार प्रॉब्लम है, बिकॉज दिस एनर्जी डेफिसिट व्हिच इज कमिंग इन. So they suddenly backtracked and they said, no, no, अभी no 70% से 50% को कम करना है, कुछ नहीं करना है. In fact, they were planning to uh, up their production. I think they are about some 7 something something. They were planning to move to 11 something. The details are all available. I mean, I'm really sorry I don't have the units in mind, but whoever's watching this show, if you can, take the initiative and read the New Indian article that comes out, that is going to come out in a few days, you would get to understand. So they were planning to push it. Now suddenly you have this coup which has happened in Niger. So these guys are losing their mind, and that's one part of the story. The other part of the story is France controls the finances of this 14 ex-African colonies of theirs. Not many people know that. तुम्हें काम करना है
लिटरली,
यार.
आई मीन
तुम
नॉर्थ वेस्ट अफ्रीका तो पूरा ही उसके कंट्रोल में है।
हाँ. Now there is a common currency through which France controls their currencies. That explains why these countries are so poor. अच्छा, इस करेंसी का भी लोचा है. इस करेंसी में उसका जो क्या बोलते हैं, मान लो निजर का whatever Niger's currency holding is, 50% of that has to stay with France at the banks of France at any point in time. Okay, so you are already poor by 50%. There is another additional 20% which they're keeping as security deposit. Some kuch to bhi bana ke ek security deposit. So at any point in time, these 14 countries have access to 30% of their funds. So now, if you have this coups and all happening, suddenly people start losing their mind कि यार क्या हो रहा है, कौन आएगा, कैसे होगा, अपना यूरेनियम का क्या होगा. If this guy suddenly वो गद्दाफी जो शुरू करने का प्लान कर रहा था, if this guy suddenly think of breaking away from the usual currency trade and move into something which is completely different, like BRICS is planning today, then तो game set and match खत्म हो गया कहानी. So a lot of people are disturbed in the West with this particular coup. Anyway, over to you.
फ्रांस का क्या सेकंड स्लैप हो गया. एक स्लैप वाज थोड़ा सा वो ब्रिक्स बोल रहा था, तो उसको एक झटका मारा घर में. अभी ये तो दूसरी तरफ से भी एक आया फटाक. This is basically telling you
unexpected actually. This one.
मेरे को ये लगता है कि chaos थ्योरी जो है, एक there's this chaos थ्योरी होती है कि भाई chaos से कुछ क्या बोलते हैं, कीचड़ में से फूल निकलता है. एंड that theory which is there कि भाई let's have chaos and something better will come out. अब उसमें थोड़ा सा एक्सप्लेन करते हैं लोगों को यूक्रेन के हिसाब से, बिकॉज यूक्रेन बड़ा प्राइम एग्जांपल. अगर आप देखो यूक्रेन के अंदर ये लोग घुसे, इन लोगों ने जो गवर्नमेंट है वो गिराई, दूसरी गवर्नमेंट लेके आए, वो भी 3 महीने के बाद गिर गई, तीसरी गवर्नमेंट लेके आए. उसके बाद इन लोगों ने इनके पूरे बंदे गए अंदर. एंड यू कैन इमेजिन विक्टोरिया नुलैंड ने तो बोला हुआ यार, हमारे बायो लैब्स थे वहां पर. तो ये केओस थ्योरी बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग लग रही है मेरे को यूक्रेन में जाने से. आई मीन उसके अंदर घुसने के अलावा ये केओस थ्योरी बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग है, क्योंकि आप देखो इंडिया के साथ भी क्या होता है. अब इंडिया की डाइवर्सिटी इतनी जबरदस्त है कि भाई केओस करना तो एक जगह होता है, दूसरी जगह होता है, चारों तरफ नहीं होता. फ्रांस को तो अपने पूरा, आई मीन लिटरली द होल ऑफ फ्रांस यू. व्हाट्स विद दिस केओस थ्योरी? ये क्या है? कौन है ये लोग? व्हाई?
So I'm sure you've covered a fair bit of it. I mean, in your chat with Sanjay Dixit in Jaipur Dialogues. In fact, तुम्हारा इस channel में भी Def Talk में भी there is, I think, a video which talks in details about the deep state, the global deep state and all, and which has got a fair number of views. So there is a lot of it covered there. However, there are a couple of things that I would want to bring out. Okay, देखो, this kind of a scenario, if we try to analyze this kind of a scenario, we invariably have to walk back and understand the different kind of global orders, the global world orders. Okay. To give you a bit of a background, the first so-called transnational transnational order was Christendom, Roman Christianity, the Holy Church. Not many people look at it from that that angle. But the first thing, sorry?
पुराना है.
हाँ, बहुत पुराना है, but then they give you an idea about, what happened. See, Rome was there in all its might and everything, but then Christianity started asserting itself after Rome got destroyed. Now, there is a very interesting theory about why suddenly Christianity started exerting itself, and did Christianity get weaponized so that they could cascade as a version of Rome and things like that, which I am not going to open my mouth because these are all theories. There are बहुत सारे writers, people who have written about it. Whoever is interested can go and take a look and find out and read. So the theory that I can just give you a brief glimpse of the theory. The theory says that Christianity was weaponized in order to destroy Rome. Anyway, so Rome happens to be the first Roman Christianity happens to be the first trans kingdom of the world. Rome se shuru hua, and it's then exerted its influence along all the different West European city-states. The basic of this was a combination of Germanic law and Latin culture. And why this is transnational? Because the church then started unifying culture, and the church even started influencing wars. Crusade ka jo bhi jitna hai, they started influencing that. And so the church was instrumental in driving a lot of order driven, it was, so to speak, as far as the Western European part of Europe was concerned. Important चीज है कि इस सारे टाइम में the church was in Rome. So Rome disappeared, but then Rome stayed back. That's the fun. Okay. Now, that was an absolute shitty order. I mean, I don't need to say that, because given the fact that they call Dark Ages for a reason, right? So this is medieval era, this is Dark Ages of Europe. So Roman order was an absolute shitty order. Now, a few hundred years into it, there was this 116 years war between France and England, जिसको 100 years war बोलते हैं.
100-year war बोलते हैं.
हाँ, this was fought, I think, in 3 or 4 phases, in which England ultimately lost. But England was the first place where this idea of nation sort of unified and came into existence. It was easy for England because they were a segregated, they were a separate island, and in the course of this fighting against France, they realized that, you know, English people and English culture and our different chota city states that we have, we more or less speak the same language, more or less eat the same food and things like that. That is where the first concept of nation came in. And France was also quick to create itself, quick to remorph itself into a nation. Now, इसमें क्या हुआ? इसमें ये हुआ कि 15 something में the first separation of church and state happened. England led this movement, and they brought in the idea of national churches. And as a result of this, they de-linked the local culture and they de-linked the local identity, and they sort of consolidated on it. So church से, तो Roman church का क्या हुआ? Roman church का थोड़ा grip थोड़ा कमजोर पड़ गया because of the creation of national churches. Okay. This later on got frozen into something which we now call Westphalia, which is the Westphalian order of nation states, which is the second, you could say, global order. Okay, which happened after the 30 Years' War in Germany. Now, some of the salient features of Westphalia, which sort of was like shaping up during the time England and France were building themselves up into a nation and all, it was state-centric law. Like the states were the main actors, the borders would be geography-based, politics was domestic. So state and politics were public, market was private, in the sense that, you know, kings and generals go fight their wars, find out different ways of getting in more and more wealth into the country. The political leaders do that. And the politicians, the designated politicians, are in charge of running the country. At the other end, the market was absolute private. Market में politician का कोई control नहीं. Now, when nation states came into being, suddenly the primacy of the church sort of reduced. Okay, and this order dominated from 1600 to about 1900. So these are the two big orders that were there. Then came in the globalization. Okay, 1945 ke baad. Now globalization came in as an afterthought. They said that, you know, you've been existing for 300 years as nation states, and all you've been doing is you've been murdering and killing and butchering each other, and there were a lot of wars that were being fought and things like that. Globalization came in apparently with to make an effort to limit the conflicts and maximize commerce. कि भाई मारामारी नहीं करेंगे, let us do some commerce. So free market, democracy, etc., Western idea, which were heavily influenced by industrialization, they came in. Okay, and to tell you honestly, वो मारामारी कम हो गया, because 1945 के बाद we've never seen a war, you know, which is of the scale of these two wars, this whatever you call them, the two world wars. Okay,
European wars.
European wars, World War, yeah. So there's this conflict and all reduced a lot. During the time when this medieval churches were the creators of the trans kingdom orders, where then you had this concept of split multiple loyalties and split authorities. So I, as a state subject, I would extend multiple loyalty, one to my king and one to my church. And the church and the king would exhibit split authorities. Okay.
Morality and being.
Yeah. So my
Hmm.
religious needs, my spiritual needs, blah blah blah, would
Yeah,
be taken care by the church, and my daily needs would be taken care by the
your
king and the
being, which
state.
is business, this,
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. This concept came back at the time of globalization, and this church and king became corporations and governments. So now, me as an employee, I am supposed to exhibit a certain amount of loyalty to my organization that employs me, and I am also expected to exhibit a certain amount of loyalty to my state, to my government.
इसको थोड़ा सा एक बारी let's just slow it down and explain it, because ये तो आपने you put across a very moot point. The
Okay,
church and king converted to the corporation and the
government.
government. ठीक है, तो ये जो what you're saying is a transformation
Hmm.
which has happened.
I'm not saying not a transformation.
It's a
I'm saying
new way of looking at it.
it's a shift. Yeah,
Ha.
it's a shift.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a shift. So corporations came to rule. Okay, so the corporations started demanding a certain amount of loyalty, and the corporations also started exhibiting a certain amount of authority, which is
Control.
normal. या मेरा सैलरी आता है वहां से, तो मुझे तो कुछ तो भी करना पड़ेगा ना, दिखाना पड़ेगा इसका. Everything was good, but you know what happened is, at the end of it, the end result was that nation states started getting weaker and weaker, and capitalism started getting stronger and stronger. A classical example would be that of the European Union.
Hmm.
European Union में the states literally have no say. We've seen this. बस ये तो मतलब आप भी पॉडकास्ट करते रहते हो, इतना सारा पॉडकास्ट आपने किया है since the beginning of Ukraine war. These guys had to watch helplessly to see Nord Stream getting blown up. They didn't do anything. They couldn't do anything. There was a point in time when Zelensky was about to sit for a meeting with this guy Putin, and Europe was backing him. Then comes this guy, क्या नाम है उसका, वो इंग्लैंड का जो प्राइम
Boris
मिनिस्टर था.
Johnson.
Boris Johnson walks in and he goes and he gives Zelensky a good rubbing and he says, no way, this meeting is not happening. This guy goes back and saying, no, no, meeting नहीं करना है मेरे को. Europe watches. Europe is helpless. Europe's got nothing to do. So Europe's power, so a German power as a nation state, or a France's power as a nation state, has been like they're terribly weak.
Just a request which is coming from the audience, थोड़ा सा आराम से, because ये थोड़ा बड़े concepts हैं. Let's not rush into
Okay.
it, because आपने बहुत important चीजें बताई हैं. People are saying कि just explain it to us.
Okay.
Till now, what we've spoken about is जो church का control था. ठीक है. If I may just round up, if you don't mind, sir.
Please.
जो church का control था, उसको formation of nation states के चक्कर में दो separate sections में बट गया वो. ठीक है. Which was also interconnected, which was जो ruler होता था, जो राजा होता था, and there was a church. ठीक है. By 1600 1600 AD तक ये सिस्टम सेट हुआ, एंड टिल 1900s ये सब चल रहा था. नाउ बिजनेस इंटरेस्ट आए, जब पैसे की बात आई, तो ऑब्वियसली जो सिमिलर कंट्रोल चर्च का था वो कॉर्पोरेशंस के पास चले गया. ठीक है. एंड जो किंग का कंट्रोल था वो गवर्नमेंट्स के पास चले गया. बात वही है, बिकॉज ईच अदर दे बोथ आर स्क्रैचिंग ईच अदर्स बैक्स. एंड उसके अंदर जो बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग सी चीज है, विच इज कॉल्ड ग्लोबलाइजेशन. मतलब द ब्रेकडाउन ऑफ बॉर्डर्स, द ब्रेकडाउन ऑफ caste, creed, religion, right? They want to keep those borders away, and एक global community बनानी है कि वो दोबारा झगड़े ना हो. तो concept बड़ा नेक है, बोलते हैं ना, it's a very very
noble सा था,
noble concept.
noble सा था, yeah.
ठीक है. अब ये जो concept है, ये आता है कहीं से, उनका सोचने का तरीका एक है. एंड जो कंफॉर्मिटी की आप लास्ट में बात कर रहे थे, जो कॉर्पोरेशन से कॉर्पोरेट से कंफॉर्मिटी आती है आपकी तरफ, वो उनका तरीका आपके ऊपर डालेंगे. सो इट्स अ वेरी सॉफ्ट वे ऑफ डूइंग थिंग्स. पहले डंडा वंडा मार के करते थे, अब वो आपको मोरालिटी से करते हैं. एंड मैंने आई हैव डन अ शो ऑन दिस, बाय द वे. आई हैव स्पोकन, मैंने एक चीज बोली थी, इज मोरालिटी द न्यू कॉलोनियलिज्म, राइट? सो
Very true. Very true. Earlier, it used to be brute power. Now it is the power of narrative, morality. Okay. I mean, you've got somebody who's sitting somewhere telling you which is right and which is wrong,
what
and
is right, what is
how
wrong.
you should behave.
हाँ,
Sorry.
हाँ, आप you're doing the wrong thing, I am doing the right thing, I am doing the wrong thing, and you're doing the right thing.
And
Hmm.
this is how you should behave. Prescriptive approach towards life.
हाँ जी.
Okay. Yeah, so so what do I do? Do I go back to
नहीं, नहीं,
what
we
people
we
did?
we're on आप you were at now corporations and how corporations are now leading the charge, if I may. ठीक है,
Okay.
वो
No,
कैसे अभी
उसके
दुनिया
उससे
को.
उससे उससे पहले भी बोलना है, because
हाँ
what
जी.
I am trying to do is I am trying to establish a chronology. So the
हाँ.
chronology is that the first set of transnational order was the church. Churches ruled strong for a few hundred years, many hundred years. Churches were the ठेकेदार, the माई बाप, so to say, of the nation states or the city states. तब तो nation states नहीं था, छोटा छोटा cities था, उसका अपना fort था, and they had those small armies and they would fight. And medieval times में Europe never had an army which ran into more than a few thousand people. That is why they got shell shocked when they first met the Ottoman army, which was like massive, lakhs and lakhs of people. Because medieval armies, European armies were a few thousand. मतलब 4,000 किसके पास, किसी के पास fighting strength है तो he is a big king kind of a thing. So these were mostly city-state driven structure, and the overarching boss was the church. Continued for a few hundred years. फिर उसके बाद क्या हुआ? Forget about 100-year war and 30-year war. आहिस्ता आहिस्ता with time, places like England and places like France started to discover a sense of, a sense of ethnic commonness. कि we are endogamous people, we all speak the same language. That is where this seed of nation states came in, which got officially accepted since the Treaty of Westphalia, I think 1638 or 1648 or something.
Correct.
तब से जाके that is where the idea of nation states came in. अब nation states क्या है? मतलब जो nation वही state. So if you are French, you would have French government. You cannot be France and have German government.
Hmm.
Same way, you cannot be German people and have a French government. So France, a kingdom, a nation, a country where there is only French people, and they would have a representative French government. Hence, the nation state का that this dual war nation state came into being. अब ये nation state create करने के बाद 100-200 उसमें क्या हुआ? नेशन स्टेट्स एक्चुअली ब्रॉट इन कॉलोनाइजेशन, नेशन स्टेट्स ब्रॉट इन इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन. अब कॉलोनाइजेशन के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखोगे तो 17th सेंचुरी, 17 समथिंग एडी के शुरू शुरू में इंडस्ट्रियल, 1610 17 में इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन शुरू हो गया. These people grew stronger. They started building their naval prowess. फिर they started going and invading other countries. Colonialism भी हुआ. Okay, colonialism का after effect, trade wars came into being. तो ग्लोबल अपना फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर और सेकंड वर्ल्ड वॉर, दो भयंकर वॉर्स हो गया. And these wars were predominantly between nation states. There was, in short, there was, as this nation states ka idea were coalescing, it took 200-300 years. These ideas take a long time. There were a lot of wars fought between them. There were a lot of killings in between them. That is where when 1945 came and the mother of all wars ended, these people decided कि बॉस बहुत हो गया, अभी नेशन स्टेट करके 300 साल हमने देख लिया है, आप लोग बहुत मारा पीटी करते हो, लड़ाई करते हो अपने बीच. So let us not keep the concept of keep the nation state as a concept, but let us weaken the government, let us weaken the state to create a global structure. Example is European Union.
European Union.
Yeah. So at this side of the border, you had the Western capitalism-driven system. At that side of the border, you had a communist-driven system. Communism maybe, Soviet Union maybe आप देखेंगे तो Soviet Union का भी it was a more or less a central structure where you had a Moscow and a Kremlin and a Politburo and things like that, and you had a lot of other satellite countries. Those could be socialist republics. Those could be direct satellites of Soviet Union. Those could be far-flung states, but they used to be pretty much centrally controlled. Okay, soft power, hard power, whichever. At the other end, you had a Western-controlled, bond. So John Mearsheimer calls these two as the first two modern-day bounded orders. कि पूरा ग्लोब में फैला नहीं था, बाउंड किया था इसने, ईस्ट में ये बाउंड था, वो वेस्ट में बाउंड था, सो ही कॉल्स इट बाउंडेड ऑर्डर. ओके, सो जॉर्ज Westphalia, then comes these two bounded orders. That is the three in your chronology. ये bounded order के time में globalization makes an entry.
Quietly.
Yeah. 1990, bounded orders disappear because you have a Soviet Union which is disintegrated. Now suddenly your world is one, in the sense that there's no order in the eastern side of the hemisphere, so to speak, because communism doesn't exist, at least officially. That is where these people realize that in the past 40, 50 years, 1945 to 1990, of globalization, I'm talking about the Western people, they realized that globalization has only managed to change the consumption pattern of these people. So globalization has touched as far as, यार तुमको नाइकी पसंद है तो मुझे एडिडास पसंद है, as far as that is concerned. Okay, there was a larger idea behind pushing globalization, which hasn't happened. But now they have the entire world, which is like their playground. So Francis Fukuyama writes, end of history. History khatam ho gaya. Now it is our time. So what they did was, they started on they went on a mad expansion spree. That is called the Global Liberal International Order, GLIU. That was when United States was unipolar world. Russia, the Soviet Union doesn't exist. 1990 के बाद से ये लोग ने rampage शुरू कर दिया. They went on and they started, those are the times when United States picked a fight in the Middle East. It went on, it invaded Iraq. 91 में first हुआ था ना वो Desert Storm.
Gulf War. Desert Storm.
वो कुवैती oil लेके. So that was the time when United States started, barging into any country and every country. This was basically a worldwide rampage that took place. और ये rampage, sorry.
Oh.
Adi, you said
sorry,
something.
Guys, I think इनका internet थोड़ा down है. No problem. We'll just wait for him to come back. But by the time he does come back, please थोड़ा video को like शाइक कर देते हैं यार. He's going to be back in a second. Oh, okay. You're back. Wonderful. I was just telling all the audience, yeah,
Oh, but I
like
could.
Shaik,
But I could hear you. You said internet down. I could hear you.
अच्छा, आपका पूरा screen freeze हो गया था.
अच्छा.
Fantastic. Let's go. तो मैं क्या बोल रहा था, ये वो टाइम था ना कि जब यूएसए अपना नया ऑर्डर सेट कर रहा था,
नया ऑर्डर को एक्सपैंड कर रहा था.
हाँ, ओके.
Okay, so they realized that, boss, our main contender is not there anymore. We've managed to dismantle the entire structure of the socialist republics. Communism is gone. Now the thing is कि ये जो there was a worldwide rampage, which the United States did. Now worldwide rampage उसने क्यों किया? That's something which you'll have to understand. I mean, every place that the United States was moving in, was sending its army, was attacking or whatever. There was one or two or three big business interests that were lining up. So you either had a Halliburton, or you had a Mobil, or you had a Total Fina Elf, or you had someone else. Mostly this was oils, because the Middle East and oil are synonymous with each other. So whenever you're hitting Iraq, it is probably to get hold of the Iraqi oil. If you're hitting Libya, it is to get hold of the Libyan oil, so on and so forth. So this kind of a forced intrusion started happening. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
अच्छा, because बहुत चुप हो गया ना, so I thought maybe I had like kind of.
यार सुन रहा था यार, आपकी बात ऐसे मत बोलो.
Okay, now. So, in a manner of speaking, feudalism which had sort of disappeared during the time there was this World War going on, and probably during the time when there were two bounded orders and things like that, or maybe it had not disappeared. It had sort of somehow been lying dormant behind the curtains and things like that. Is now out and out back. और इस दौरान क्या हुआ है, because United States grew too confident. The West grew too confident because अभी तो अपने को रुकने वाला कोई नहीं है. Now that Soviet Union is not there and communism is not there, and now that we are bringing a global liberal order across the whole world, the biggest mistake that they did was they shifted their productive economy to China. And I'm sure
हाँ.
Adi, you've covered this plenty number of times. Okay, so now, as a result of which the West is now basically a financial, a speculative, a service-driven economy.
हम्म.
अभी 2008 और 2020 में, when 2008 का recession and 2020 का pandemic में, तुम देखो money went to the rich, stock markets have soared, but the economies have been tanking. So financial market में पैसा है, आदमी के जेब में पैसा नहीं है. Okay, so this is what has right now happened. And now, so far so good. Any questions or we move ahead?
ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है. इसके अंदर एक चीज वी हैव टू ब्रिंग अबाउट, जो कॉन्सेप्ट है ग्लोबलिज्म का. मेरे को इसमें एक चीज बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग लगती है कि जो इंडिविजुअलिज्म बना रहे हैं ग्लोबलिज्म के अंदर, कि भाई आपकी आइडेंटिटी है, आपका ये है, आपका वो है, जो होल वोकिस्ट प्रैक्टिस जो बाहर निकल रही है, विच वी कैन सी अराउंड. एंड ये चीज इंडिया के अंदर भी काफी प्रमोट की जाती है इस इन प्राइवेट नेटवर्क्स, एंड ये काफी ज्यादा इसके बारे में बोला जाता है. नाउ देखिए, ये जो ह्यूमन फिनोमेना है, ठीक है, जो भी हो, मेल फीमेल और द थर्ड जेंडर और व्हाटएवर इट इज, ये ह्यूमन फिनोमेना आज का तो नहीं है. ये ह्यूमन फिनोमेना हजारों साल से है. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आज ही ट्रांसजेंडर्स आज ही निकले हैं, या ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. तो ये जो इंडिविजुअलिज्म है, मेरा कहना ये है कि ये इंडिविजुअलिज्म इज टू ब्रेक द बेसिक स्ट्राटा ऑफ सोसाइटी, जो एक स्ट्रैंड होता है सोसाइटी का, जो दो लोगों को कनेक्ट करता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, मदर फादर, द फैमिली, राइट? जो आपकी फैमिली है, द फैमिली कॉन्सेप्ट जिसको बोलते हैं. इंडिया में जो आज इंडिया एक जगह पे खड़ा है, वो बिकॉज ऑफ फैमिली कॉन्सेप्ट है. इवन रशिया जैसे जो पुराने स्टेट्स हैं, उनके अंदर फैमिलीज आर वेरी वेरी बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग
यूनिट.
इवन नॉर्दर्न यूरोप में अगर आप जाएंगे, कंट्रीज लाइक पोलैंड एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ, इंस्पाइट पोलैंड की तो मतलब 2-3 बारी तो कंट्री तोड़ चुके हैं, बट वो कंट्री फिर भी सर्वाइव करता है क्योंकि उनका फैमिली यूनिट बड़ा स्ट्रॉन्ग है. बट ये जो ग्लोबलाइजेशन के कॉन्सेप्ट्स आ रहे हैं वोकिज्म से, इससे ये यूनिट पे टारगेट किया जा रहा है. इसका मेन रीजन क्या है?
Okay, great you asked the question. Regionalism is a concept that started as a pushback against globalization. It first surfaced in a place called Japan. Japan ने क्या किया? When there was this onslaught of globalization, Japan very nicely took certain aspects of globalization and took certain aspect of Japanese culture and created something. उसका एक Japanese term भी है, मुझे अभी याद नहीं है. You can Google it up, which was uniquely Japanese. Okay. Now they were creative people. They had their own cultural set, and they started doing something along those lines, and they eventually made it big. This kind of a regionalism, they started giving ideas to ASEAN countries, to China, to Russia, to so on and so forth. That was when there was this resurgence of regionalism which started coming in. This was during the end of 2000s. Now, during the end of last century, 1999, 98, this time. Okay. Now you have got a hint of revivalism which is coming in India, a hint of a pushback which is coming in India through its assertive identity. You've got a hint of Bharat. You've got a major pushback which has come in China, because इसने China में पूरा productive unit shift कर दिया with the expectation that China is going to become liberal like them. China took everything that these guys had to offer and more, and they said thank you very much, Jairam ji. Russia, Russia, the example that you took is a great example again of how to create your national identity. Russians never lost their identity. They were वो temporarily वो थोड़ा बहुत गुमराह हो गया था and all, with so much happening.
Okay. That's 70 years in a large history. Hardly anything.
वो मैं नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, मैं 1990 के बाद में बोल रहा हूँ. 70 years, 70 years का history के बाद भी Orthodox Church is making a comeback. So can you imagine how strong their roots are? Even
And वो भी
something which is,
Russian Orthodox Church.
yeah,
So it's the national church.
national church. Yeah.
हाँ, वो
And
बड़ा
goes back to the
important है
times
because
of,
that
yeah,
joins them as Russians.
yes.
Hmm.
So this pushback started coming as a result of too much of globalization, where, you know, whether my idea was defined or my idea wasn't defined, I as a common man, I could be a Chinese, I could be a Russian, I could be an Indian. I started the coming, I foresaw the coming of a world which was not to my liking. And there were many people like, this is what organized that pushback. This is what went against who we call global elites, जिसको लेके अभी बात करेंगे, अभी तक बात तो शुरू भी नहीं की है. This is going to be a long ass chat actually. So now to destroy that,
Hmm.
and see, an endogamous people is what builds an identity. So France for French, Germany for Germans, Russia for Russians. Break that.
India for Indians.
Break that. Okay. Now, यहाँ पे, where remember one day we had a chat. This is deviating from the topic a little bit, but still, I would want to get here. One day we had a chat, a telephone chat. You, me, Asha, we were chatting away for 1 hour. I went into the
हाँ,
ATM. That is where you said that color revolution is very difficult in India because India is very diverse. You remember? You okay? Color revolution is very difficult in India because India is very diverse. Take your point. At the same time, economic disruption becomes easy in India because India is very diverse.
absolutely. So diversity is a plus point and a minus point also.
And a minus point aspect. Yeah. So you probably have a Russia for Russians and France for French and India for Indians. India for Indians में थोड़ा बाद में आएंगे. Now, I had appeared for a global order ka podcast a long time back, where I had one of my friend who watched the podcast who said, "तूने इस्लाम को लेके नहीं बोला." Islam was also world order. To answer that through a podcast again, where there would be more viewership, obviously, तो मेरे को बार-बार बोलना नहीं पड़ेगा. I don't consider Islam to be a world order personally. Why? Because Islam was never, and the religious concept were never an overarching presence in the Ottomans and the Mughals and the Safavids and the whoever was there during whatever time that united.
Hmm.
Like there was a central church that united, that dictated terms and conditions. A Mecca never dictated, was never in a position to dictate terms and conditions. So falling short of that, now comes in the point where I am bringing in the concept of Islam. Falling short of that because it wasn't a global order. So what was it? Was it a regional order? Yes, it was a regional order which started asserting itself at the fall of the Soviet Union and when United States started its global rampage.
Modern.
So it's,
Modern
yeah,
version.
modern time. Yeah. So Islam also started making a comeback. Okay. Now, so we have regionalism, we have a resurgence of a single religious order, which is Islam. We have nation states. You have to understand this the situation here. We have the concept of nation states which are terribly weak. Okay, so I am including West European nation states which are weak. I'm saying that probably a Russia and a China is strong. You have the resurgence of Islam which is trying to push back, and you have something called wokeism. Okay, what the global elites have very smartly done is they have taken this to Islam and wokeism and they have weaponized it to push it back into the countries where there is a chance of their losing their grip, to destabilize the country, to hit on the identity of that country. So France is no longer for French people, and Germany is no longer for German, and India is no longer for Indians. And these are my two tools that I am using to subvert any any semblance of a unification. So far they have failed in Russia. So far they have failed in China. इनफैक्ट चाइना ने उल्टा डिज्नी को वोक बना दिया. डिज्नी जाके अभी पता नहीं क्या क्या मूवी बनाते जा रहा है, एंड ऑल ऑफ देम आर टैंकिंग. हाँ, चाइना डिज्नीज entire financial thing is controlled by China these days. So
हाँ.
China has, yeah. So China has sort of played United States in its own game. But anyway, coming back to what I was saying is that identity, since the nation states are weak, and since a few of these nation states are showing signs of sort of standing up and pushing back against the global agenda, against the global narrative, इसको और weaken कर देते हैं. तो कैसे करेंगे? ये जो दो है, Islamism and wokeism, इन दोनों को weaponize करते हैं, इन दोनों को spread करते हैं to weaken them. That's where we stand. Now, अभी तक आदि ठीक ठाक है या आई नीड टू?
नहीं, वी आर गोइंग सॉलिड, बिकॉज इसके अंदर दो चीज हमको निकल रही है बाहर कि जो मल्टी प्रोंग्ड अटैक है, और इसका एक ही टारगेट है कि जो आपका जो एनी कंट्री दैट बिकम्स नेशनलिस्ट, दैट इज नॉट एक्सेप्टेबल, बिकॉज अगर वो नेशनलिस्ट हो जाएगा तो वो अपने आप अपनी चीजें सोचेगा, ठीक है, वो अपने इंटरेस्ट के लिए काम करेगा. एंड उसमें भी मैं ऑडियंस को ये रिमाइंड कराना चाहूंगा कि इफ यू लुक एट व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन द यूएस, जो उनके सदर्न बॉर्डर पे हो रहा है, क्योंकि इनको पता है, देखो ये अभी डेमोक्रेट चल रहे हैं, ये तो बड़े वोकिस्ट हैं, ट्रम्प या ट्रम्प जैसा कोई आगे आएगा,
यस,
ठीक है, इनको ये पता है. तो इनके दिमाग में ये है कि यार ट्रम्प अगर आएगा भी, या ट्रम्प जैसा कोई नेशनलिस्ट आए भी, उसका जो स्ट्रक्चर है वो पहले वीक करके रखो, सो दैट ही कांट बिल्ड दैट नेशनलिज्म. ठीक है, बिकॉज ट्रम्प क्या बोल रहा था, यार जंगे बंद करो, बाहर निकलो वहां से, उधर छोड़ो, क्या नाम है आपका, इराक से छोड़ो, अफगानिस्तान से छोड़ो, इधर से छोड़ो, उधर से छोड़ो, उसको सब छोड़ना था. वो तो बोलता था नेटो भी छोड़ दो, कहता है भाई तुम अपने आप कर लो जो करना है, जब कुछ होगा तो मैं देखूंगा, बट अदरवाइज यू डू व्हाट यू वांट टू ऑन योर ओन. तो उससे क्या हो रहा था कि आपका कंट्रोल फैक्टर विल गो डाउन. अभी क्या हुआ मेरे हिसाब से, एंड I'd like to just ऐड हियर, एक ये था भैया, स्ट्रक्चर था आपका, यूएसए वाज टारगेटिंग चाइना एंड रशिया, बड़े नेशनलिस्ट, एंड एक ये सडनली बाहर निकल गया which became nationalist also, which was India. अगर आप डेमोक्रेसीज में नेशनलिस्ट मूवमेंट्स देखें ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, इंडिया इज द ओनली नेशनलिस्ट मूवमेंट दैट इज सर्वाइव्ड डेमोक्रेसीज में. ठीक है, बाकी कोई और सर्वाइव नहीं कर पाई है. ट्रम्प आया ठक नीचे. एनीबडी यू सी जिन्होंने नेशनलिज्म को प्रमोट किया है, आई डोंट थिंक देयर इज एनीबडी एल्स जो वो चीज कर पाए. आज आपकी मिलोनी आई है, जॉर्जिया मिलोनी, जो बड़ी नेशनलिस्ट है,
She's gone now.
अब देखो उसका नैरेटिव ही पूरा चेंज हो गया. वो तो यूक्रेन करना शुरू हो गई है. हाय मेरे
यूक्रेन उसने इमिग्रेंट्स लेना शुरू कर दिया है. पोलैंड has also started taking immigrants.
अब आप ये देख लीजिए आपके ऊपर किस तरह के प्रेशर्स आए होंगे. तो आज अगर इंडिया यहाँ पर खड़ा हुआ है, अपनी बात लेके खड़ा हुआ है, आप उसमें 50 गलतियां निकाल लो इंडिया के ऊपर, कोई टेंशन नहीं है. एंड 50 क्या, मैं और 100 ऐड कर दूंगा उसके अंदर. बट द शेयर फैक्टर कि हम लोग खड़े हुए हैं अपने नेशनलिज्म के साथ में, अपने नेशनल इंटरेस्ट के साथ में, ये काफी हद तक एक्सेप्टेबल या है कि नहीं है वो आगे देखते हैं. बिकॉज कहीं ना कहीं मेरे को लग रहा है, चलिए पहले इससे बात करते हैं कि क्या एक्सेप्टेबल है कि नहीं है. सो व्हाट डू यू से टू दैट?
टू द ग्लोबल पावर्स?
हाँ जी. नो, जो ग्लोबलिस्ट फोर्सेस हैं, देखिए उनको भी तो हेज करना है ना अपने बेट्स. चाइना के साथ आपने गलती कर दी है.
No, it is not acceptable, boss. I mean, India showing nationalistic strains is not acceptable. And it is not acceptable for the simple reason, because I have you in my control. Yeah, I thought I have had you in my control. अब तुम अगर दूसरा कुछ गाना शुरू कर दिया तो फिर there's a problem, ना? That's obvious. Now, I would can we move to the usual suspect?
भारतीय इंडियंस हैं, भारतीय हैं, तो इंडिया का एंगल तो आना पड़ता है ना बीच में भी.
इंडिया का एंगल आएगा बॉस, इंडिया का एंगल आएगा. और इसको लेके see, now we've had a lot of chats, we've had a lot of podcasts, we have a lot of podcasts which goes on. Aadi has been a part of podcasts which have taken place within Jaipur Dialogues, in here in Dev Talks, where you've mentioned a couple of organizations and things like that. Personally, for me, I don't have names for these people. Okay. Somebody you calls them Illuminati, somebody calls them Club of Rome, somebody calls them something something. Vikram Sood calls them CFR Bilderberg Group and Trilateral Commission. These. So for me, they are that and they are not. What I have tried to do now, you could blame me a little bit because by profession I am a trainer. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to identify the behavioral traits behind these people. And what I have realized, or whatever little my researchers have taken, wherever little my researchers have taken me, now I need to add a disclaimer over here, is that none of these are absolutely authentic, peer-reviewed, blah 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 research. I have just I read a lot. Most of them I don't understand because I'm not a high IQ guy. Some of them I do understand, and the little bit that I understand, I try to share with people to spread a little bit of awareness to my best ability. So this is a kind of a reading that I am right now in. I am reading these stuffs, a couple of books that I am reading, and what I have realized is that every society now, let's go back पुराना दिन में, बहुत पुराना दिन में, when we were agricultural society, when we were like gradually moving into from agriculture or moving in from pastoralism into agricultural society, बहुत साल पहले दो दो किस्म के लोग होते थे. एक थे settled societies जहाँ पे people were all settled. They used to tend to their lands and tend to their herds, which is mostly bher bakri, etc., etc. And so they were called the settled society. So each settled society all around the world had an outsider community. Now, outsider community क्या होता था? Outsider community which would perform all the leftover tasks. सोसाइटी में ना कुछ कुछ टास्क होता है जो नॉर्मल सोसाइटली मतलब लोग करना पसंद नहीं करते. डेथ को लेके different rituals related with death. Then there was tradecraft, trading. There was magic. There was witchcraft, finance, etc., etc. This settled society had a lot of settled societies around the world had some of the other taboo in practicing. So they were usually passed on to different people. Now these different people were mostly different by ethnicity, or by religion, or by language, or sometimes they were all of this. As settled societies grew, the opportunities started growing. So weaving, few examples like weaving, like shoe juto banana, shoemaking, hunting, butcher, then torturing. Professional torturers होते थे जो कि जेल में घुस के torture करते थे. Bodyguard, prostitutions, animal training, entertainment, grave digging, conflict resolution. Okay, so you have a Christian and a Muslim countries that are fighting with each other. You need a neutral somebody to resolve that conflict. So conflict resolution, etc., etc. A lot of opportunities came in, and these all opportunities used to go to the outsiders, the so-called outsiders. Okay, let's call them nomads. So you have a settled society which has a lot of tasks which it doesn't want to perform. You have an outsider nomads who you are sort of assigning this task to कि भाई तू कर इसको. With time, what happened is, because these guys had to deal with a lot of people, they became multilingual. Because they were the ones that started keeping a track of their business, they took to writing. Because they were not a part of the settled society and they were more like nomads, they were mobile. So they became traveling traders. They could travel between territory. And because they were outsider, let's say I have a fight with you. So you are X community, I am Y community, and we are fighting each other. But we have an outsider who can travel between X and Y community because he doesn't have a dog in our fight. He can trade with X, he can trade with Y. He can negotiate with X, he can negotiate with Y. In fact, he can bring X and Y back onto a negotiating table and try to resolve conflict when the time comes. So these communities were they became heavily mobile. They became like what I call liquid travelers, not bounded by borders. They were true sense where they were neutral strangers. Like a Jew could easily travel between a Christian and a Muslim warring territory. वो अपना सामान बेचने के लिए जा रहा होगा या वो आपको अपना नेगोशिएशन करने के लिए जा रहा होगा, लेकिन करता तो था. So when as industrial revolution gradually started coming in, it happened over a period of 300 150 years. तो एक साल में तो नहीं हुआ था. Community influences were heavily marked during those days. So you had British territory, you had Dutch territory, you had Muslim territories, and you had these outsiders who had no territory. They had no concept of land. They were not wedded to your land, they were wedded to time. That's it. They gradually, the Armenians, the Greek merchants, the Assyrians, the Jews, the Parsis, Arab make community, Afghans make community, the Afghans and Iranian make, Sheikh Mohammedis. All these guys gradually became untouchable. Okay, when with capitalism, when colonialism and capitalism came in, first तो जब ये capitalism आया तो ये जितना भी सारे outcasts थे, nomads थे, they were so prolific traders and they were such good reader of people that they were the first capitalists, unorganized, but they were the first capitalists. And when colonial,
traders थे ना, उनका काम था.
They were the first. They were the first who, like, capitalists in the sense that they had excess money, a lot of excess money. Okay, and when colonialism came in, mercantile capitalism helped them, because mercantile capitalism, they started exploring the previously unexplored sites. A great example in India are the Parsis. Okay, they are the first ones to take up this opportunity with the Brits. They were the first one that went complete the Anglo way, in their dress, in their manner, in the way of speaking. They were very nominally a part of the Indian system, tribal system, Indian settled society, a very nominal part. They were already very experienced in peddling, in weaving, in carpentry, in liquor selling, or batliwala, daruwala, jitna bhi Parsi surnames hai, they were all relating to their trade. They moved in very quickly, and they moved into banking, money lending, shipping, international trading. So you have the Kama and the Tata, etc. The first lot of they were the British favored them a lot. Okay, so by 19th century they turned out to be industrialists, bankers, top lawyers. अब इसमें मजे का बात ये है कि settled societies का capital was या तो land या तो animal.
Correct.
These guys' capital was the human being. So while the settled society was on खेती बाड़ी करना है, do this, do that, animal slaughter, blah blah blah, husbandry, these guys were completely dependent on these guys. You were the capital, the service guys, the service nomads. So as a result of colonization, as colonization spread wide and far, the Han Chinese, about 2-3 million, like that's like 20-30 lakhs Han Chinese moved behind European money and South Asia mein fail gaye. Thousands of Indian went to East Africa. I'm sure you know about them. In the same way, thousands of Lebanese moved to West Asia. So in a sense, that these were the guys who were the first global citizens, and they were even before globalization came in, they had globalized. Ab iska characteristics kya tha? They were gifted talkers. They were very nice, very gifted talkers. They were multilingual. Most of them were very, natural charmers, because ye log aadmi leke kaam karta hai boss. Okay, he had intimate knowledge about you. You had no idea about him. So a singer knows about your preference. A fortune teller knows about your hope. A merchant knows about your needs. A doctor knows about your body, but you know nothing about them. And these guys were impermanent. They were liquid. They were not wedded to a place. They were not wedded to a culture. They had their own culture. They were very close societies. So they had no dog in your fight. They were very highly specialized traders, finance, jewelry, media. Okay, they had a different diet. They had different rituals. They had different cultures. A great example is the Jews in Europe. And another very crucial thing, what made them mobile, is they refused to play by your rules. तुम उसको पकड़ के मारोगे भी तो आज 10 आदमी मिलके कोई तुमको एक आउटसाइडर मिल गया and you hit him bad, maybe you kill him. Medieval societies में, he is not going to turn back and fight. His community is not going to come after you. They have very strict rules of engagement. They don't engage in a fight with you. They have an inordinate they started having an inordinate amount of economic clout. अभी तुमने
हम्म
Game of Thrones देखा है?
हम्म
I'm sure a lot of viewers have watched it. Game of Thrones में तुम देखना, जब भी ये वेस्टेरोस का बोलो या किसी का भी बोलो पैसा का जरूरत होता था, they would go to a banker का कोई एक कहीं पे जाता था जहाँ पे all these bankers used to sit. And these bankers had no, they were not physically intimidating. They had no big army standing behind them, nothing. लेकिन उसके सामने भी जाके ये लोग बात करने से डरता था. That is,
हाँ, हमारी पुरानी मूवीज में भी तो मुंशी जी होता था, if you remember.
yeah, yeah, and that is a very apt description. Though they had left it in between the lines, that's a very apt description of an outsider nomad who is controlling your money. Okay.
Correct.
आज के दिन में what is their legacy? They are absolutely closed network. ये closed network के बाद को लेके Vanguard को लेके जब बात करेंगे BlackRock तो पता ही चल जाएगा. Okay, they are very heavy on nepotism. They look out for their own people. बाहर का किसी को नहीं help करेगा. Okay, most of them are very family and quasi family based क्या बोलते हैं businesses. Okay, so now if you sort of take all of this characteristic features and legacy, and if you try to link with this modern families, all the Rothschild and the groups like Bilderberg, TLC, the Trilateral Commission, organizations like Vanguard or BlackRock, तुम देखोगे you can find the similarity. As far as the closed group is concerned, यार आदि वो can you show the ownership slide CNN वाला तुमको जो मैं भेजा, BlackRock ownership.
अच्छा वो वाला, हाँ, I can show that. 1 मिनट में आ जाएगा.
This is something which we call.
आप चलते रहो, I will get it up in a minute.
Okay, this is something which we call cyclic ownership. Now, cyclic ownership को लेके भी there is a. I'll tell you why cyclic ownership. Why cyclic ownership has come. Cyclic ownership का मजा ये है कि BlackRock owns Vanguard, Vanguard owns State Street owns BlackRock. जितना भी शेयर होल्डिंग है ये तीनों के पीछे.
अब बीच में सोरोस भी थोड़ा सा है.
सोरोस है. अच्छा, तुमको पता है Rothschild has given their a part of their asset management responsibility to BlackRock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now there is a very interesting thing happening with BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street and all these investment investment managers. Investment managers बोलते हैं ना? Investment management
managers, हाँ, जो
asset management. Sorry. Asset management companies. So once the slides comes in, then I'll.
आ गया. I am putting it up right now. तो ये slide तो बड़ी important है.
This is the slide. Okay. So in between BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, UBS, State Street, Morgan, the first 7 or 8 companies control about 40% of the global. क्या बोलते हैं उसका?
GDP.
Global. क्या? Sorry.
Global GDP.
Global GDP, which are like 100 trillion.
$105 trillion.
तो 40 यहीं पे आ गया. BlackRock, Vanguard, Fidelity, ये सबको the first 6 or 7 or 8 you add up, it is going to come to 40. Now
first
the interesting thing is first 5 is तो एकदम अपना, yeah, 30%. And in this chart you have a BlackRock owns Vanguard and Vanguard owns State Street and blah blah blah. नहीं, वो मैंने तुमको जो भेजा था ना,
हाँ,
वो एक बार दिखा. Because yes, this one. See, this is a CNN report which talks about the top 10 owner of Vanguard. मैंने red line mark कर दिया है. You would see the name of BlackRock and Morgan and State Street, etc. Second slide maybe whether it's not very clear. Second slide is the top 10 owners of BlackRock. Again, Vanguard, BlackRock
and State Street.
And SGS is State Street Global. Okay. Again, third is, the next slide is owner of State Street. It's Vanguard,
BlackRock and State Street.
Yes. Okay. Now, apart from that, BlackRock Vanguard owns a lot of has got a lot of heft in a lot of other organizations like Apple and blah blah blah. We all know that. I have sent you the slides. You have discussed about them in with this thing in Jaipur Dialogues. Yeah, banking में है. Now I have a piece of paper with me जिसमें मैंने कुछ latest लिखा है.
हाँ.
Okay, so banking and finance, BlackRock controls. Oil, BlackRock controls. Pharma, BlackRock Vanguard, State Street controls.
Media.
All of this. Now the interesting thing is, what is Industrial Revolution 4.0? It's the artificial intelligence and the chip war that is coming in.
That is deindustrialized, post-industrialized world.
हाँ, post अभी इसको 4.0 बोल रहा है, पता नहीं कौन सा ठीक है. तो इसमें the key players in this chip war, TSMC, crucial stockholder Vanguard, Samsung, crucial stockholder Vanguard and BlackRock. एक मिनट रुको यार, चश्मा पहने दो. अच्छा, there's this company called Global Foundries, which is a Dutch company which makes those machines जिसमें chip manufacture. That's the number one. This is a monopoly business basically. The Global Foundries का who's the crucial guy behind Global Foundries? BlackRock. Intel के पीछे कौन है? Vanguard. Nvidia के पीछे कौन है? Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street. ASMC के पीछे कौन है? Vanguard, BlackRock. बस. So they have the chip war also in their pocket. Now, अभी बात ऐसा है कि now this is a very interesting thing that I'm going to say. If you follow Yuri Slechkind, he says that the global modern century, from being from remaining in minority की सब थोड़ा territorial, थोड़ा tertiary था, numbers पे nomads, the service nomads or the global nomads were low in numbers, the settled societies were bigger in numbers, blah 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 blah. अभी हम लोग सब nomad बन गए. And he has a very valid point. आज के दिन में देखो, आदि, you, I, we are almost all of us are nomads. We travel light. Okay, we are probably separated from our family. We probably don't stay in the place where we were born. Our primary capital is human beings. We are not tilling lands. We are not rearing animals. Okay, so a lot of modernization, as a consequence of modernization, a lot of us have become nomadic in our nature and in our character. Nomadic in our nature and character के result के हिसाब से क्या हुआ? 20th century, second half of 20th century, lot of people who were not nomads started getting a lot richer. Okay. Now, then what do the nomads do? बस तुम उसके business में घुस गए हो. So far, he was lauding, let's say, the media and the steel and the oil and the mining and everything. And suddenly you guys have gotten into his business and you guys are getting rich and richer and richer and richer. What does he do? So earlier on, let's say he used to control $2 trillion. Now you're also threatening to control close to $500 billion, $1 trillion. What does he do? He takes his game up to the next level. That is where concepts of BlackRock, big companies like BlackRock come in.
He buys you out. Simple.
He buys you out. He doesn't buy you out. BlackRock doesn't own this much of
they
money.
They invest in you and influence you. And, yeah.
But he controls. BlackRock controls.
Adani के ऊपर हुआ था. BlackRock owns a lot of Adani, and BlackRock को क्या था कि Adani का carbon footprint थोड़ा ज्यादा है. ठीक है, ये ऑफिशियल स्टेटमेंट में था 1.5 महीना पहले हिंडनबर्ग की रिपोर्ट से. ठीक है. नाउ BlackRock इज इन्वेस्टेड इन अडानी. अंदर की बात अभी कंफर्मेशन नहीं है, बट पता चला है अडानी साहब ने वैनगार्ड के जाके कुछ डील करी है, एंड द एंटायर थिंग जस्ट वेंट गॉन.
Okay. So what I was saying is that they take the game up to the next level, where today even a Rothschild is putting in his assets in the Vanguard and BlackRock. So they don't, now they have gone to, the global elites have gone to a level where they may not have your, they don't have to compete with you because they control your money. So BlackRock controls the decision-making process in a Apple, in a Google, in a Facebook, in a everywhere. Amazon, everywhere. The same way it controls the decision. It has got the kind of shares that they have, 14%, 13%, 19%, 17% share in companies such big, gives them access to the डायरेक्ट टू द, वो क्या बोलते हैं उसको, बोर्ड ऑफ
board
डायरेक्टर्स
of
के रूम.
directors.
या, and they impact decision making process like that. So they don't need to sort of get into a competition with you. They simply outbuy you. They simply start controlling your money. Now comes the question, which is, why are these guys destabilizing, or why, what, how do these guys benefit, or what is going to happen, and things like that. बस एक simple सा बात है, and this for all the viewers who are watching this, simple सा बात ये है कि there is a difference of psychology. There's a psychological difference between them and you and me. Okay, you and me मतलब हम लोग सब एक है. You have to understand the basic difference between these people and your thought process and their thought process. See, their thought process, पहले अपना सेंस ऑफ सिक्योरिटी बोले. कम्युनिटी का जो बंदा है, फिक्स्ड, क्या बोलते हैं, सेटल कम्युनिटीज के जो बंदे हैं, यू, आदि, मी, एवरीबडी, our sense of security resides in things like religion, things like identity, things like ideology, things like absolute numbers, things like defined territories, immovable properties, assets, etc., etc. That is why we are always losing our mind कि यार इतना forced immigration तो फिर क्या होगा, यार इतना demographic shift तो फिर क्या होगा. Their sense of security resides in controlling the finance, the economy, controlling the population, controlling our decision making. For them, it really doesn't matter whether you are one or whether you're 100 or whether you're 1 million, as long as he controls you. For them, it really doesn't matter whether Europe is a Christian Europe, a white Europe, or a brown Europe, or a black Europe, or a Muslim Europe, as long as they control Europe. So this is a different mindset. To understand that, you have to think like them. To them, it really doesn't matter who infiltrates India, whether it's a Myanmari Rohingya refugee that infiltrates India or a Bangladeshi that infiltrates India. What happens to India's demography? What happens to India's ethos? What happens? Really doesn't matter. What matters to them is how big is India as a consumer market? How much of money am I making? How much of it am I controlling? Do I control the money making process? If I don't control the money making process, what are those steps that I can take to ensure that I control the money making process? That's all that matters. Government change करना है या कर दो, pollution बढ़ाना है बढ़ा दो, 2 करोड़ इमिग्रेंट घुसाना है घुसा दो. I need to have a control of the finances. And that's how this works. And this is who these people are. I call them global nomads. And this is what these people do. इसको ब्लॉक करने का मतलब, if there's too much of क्या बोलते हैं, if there's too much of resentment, you have the gulags in place, what I call modern day gulags. You have a digital gulag, आपको सोशल मीडिया से बाहर निकाल देगा. आदि, मैं, हम लोग सब मतलब वी क्रॉस मिडिल एज. आदि का एज मुझे पता नहीं, आई एम लाइक आई हैव टच्ड 50, मिडिल एज तो हो गया है. For me, it really doesn't matter how long I manage to stay in or out of social media. But बच्चा लोग जो है, the modern generations, they for them social media is everything. You cannot you would probably be a lot stressed out if you're banned from social media for 30 days or for 45 days, or if you're banned forever. So that is the digital gulag. You have a mental gulag, which is like they'll force wokeism on you. जिसका प्रैक्टिकल एग्जांपल ऑफ फोर्सिंग वोकिज्म क्या होता है, अपना एचआर में देखो, कॉर्पोरेट में जहां पे भी आप काम करते हो, इंक्लूसिविटी एवरीवेयर यार, everywhere. There's this friend I have whose name I don't want to take. He represents the HR of a company, and that is why he doesn't use his name in FP. He says, यार मर जाते हैं हम लोग ये HR का woke वाला नौटंकी देख देख के, and there's nothing you can say because you end up losing your job. And this I am saying, being in the HR, every other day they're bringing in stupid rules of inclusivity and diversity and blah blah blah. आदमी लोग तो घुसा लेते.
एक चीज है, बड़े वर्ड्स बड़े अच्छे चूज करते हैं लोग. हाँ, जो भी करो.
Yes. Oh yes. Fancy
ये
words.
देना पड़ेगा. इंक्लूसिविटी, डाइवर्सिटी, क्या एक और वो कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पांसिबिलिटी, एक्विटी, एनवायरनमेंट,
corporate responsibility.
हाय मतलब बंदा भी बोले यार भैंस के, if I don't do this I'm guilty. You know, honestly, I'm happy that I don't work for a larger company or anything like that.
Yeah. So there's
It's ridiculous.
So you have this क्या बोलते हैं, you had your mental gulag, you have the digital gulag, you have क्या बोलते हैं, power gulags, physical force. See, force is the only commodity that cannot be like sort of controlled. That is why what they are doing is they are getting back with the private armies. So हम लोग प्राइवेट आर्मीज में हम लोग ना वैगनर वैगनर करके बोल रहे हैं, आज वैगनर 2 दिन हुआ, वैगनर थोड़ा लाइमलाइट में आ गया. द बिगेस्ट प्राइवेट आर्मी इज नेटो इटसेल्फ.
Blackwater.
Yeah, under the NATO का the basic reason behind creation of NATO was suddenly Soviet Union पागल होके वेस्ट यूरोप में एक्सपैंड करेंगे तो फिर नेटो चाहिए. When Soviet Union ceased to be,
नेटो,
नेटो
सीटो,
का,
सेंटो जितने भी थे वो
हाँ
सारे वही हैं.
वही है. एंड अंडर द बहाना ऑफ प्रोवाइडिंग सिक्योरिटी, नेटो हैज अ say in every damn thing that this company this countries decide. Every policy NATO decides. NATO this has got a set on the table. And वो डिसाइड करेगा कि भाई हाँ इसके साथ करना है या नहीं करना है, whatever policies you choose to. So you have a private army in NATO itself. You don't have to look at a Wagner or a वो क्या था Blackwater, Eric Prince का whatever.
Blackwater.
Okay.
बहुत
And
हैं, there's so many.
and another gulag is the financial gulag. Financial gulag को तो मत भूलो. सब
नाइजल
कुछ लिंक
फराज.
कर दिया.
नाइजल
सब कुछ लिंक कर
फराज
दिया.
यूके
हाँ
वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट पॉलिटिशियंस इन यूके, उसका बैंक ही बंद कर दिया.
रीस कर दिया. बोलो.
कहता है साहब तुम्हारे पास पैसे नहीं है इतने, तुम सर अभी तुम अमीर थे अब अमीर नहीं रहे हो, तो तुम्हारा अब यहाँ बैंक में बैंकिंग नहीं कर सकते. उसने काफी हल्ला गुल्ला करा, ये करा वो करा, तो बच गया वो. नहीं तो ही वाज आउट. नाइजल फराज इज अ बिग केस.
सोचो उतना बड़ा वीआईपी को कर सकते हैं तो तुम और बैंक क्या है?
हाँ हाँ.
Nothing. So if we are losing our mind over too much of demographic shift or illegal immigration and we decide to organize, let's say we are organizing, we have created an army of people who's organizing, यार बैंक अकाउंट बंद कर देगा, क्या करोगे? So they have things in control, they have their things in place. Where they are going wrong is this Russia, China, and this sudden emergence of global south. Okay, this is where they're going wrong.
जहां पर हमारे जैसे थोड़े से कमीने लोग बाहर आ गए.
हाँ.
See, मेरे हिसाब से modern इसके अंदर, and after this if you don't have much else to say, we'll get into the questions. काफी सारे सवाल हैं. So we got almost 500 people watching us right now, huh? So we got a good audience. मेरा जो एक चीज है which I want to bring about is of course the Bharat angle, and I've you've done a very good research. I must, by the way, guys, my applause. Arindam has done fantastic research. He's brought out global history. जो चीज, एंड ये देखिए, मैंने जो पॉडकास्ट के शुरू में बोला था कि मैंने एक एंगल बताया था, उस दिन जनरल नारायण ने एक एंगल बताया था. कल हमने बात करी थी कि इंडिया ने कैसे पुशबैक करा है उसको. ठीक है, कई जगहों पे हमने पुशबैक करा है, कई जगहों पे हमारे को थोड़ी सी जूते भी पड़े. ठीक है, दैट्स फाइन, उसमें कोई वो नहीं है, हर जगह आप जीत नहीं सकते. आई वॉन्ट टू ब्रिंग इन द इंडिया एंगल. मेरे हिसाब से जो ये रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर है सर, दिस हैज बीन, जो बोलते हैं ना ग्लोबल ऑर्डर को, इट्स फ्लिप्ड इट. इधर इसका जो प्लानिंग की गई थी, ठीक है, दैट वाज नॉट डन प्रॉपर्ली, इन द सेंस इसके जो ऑब्जेक्टिव्स थे वो बहुत, आई थिंक दे वर फार टू वेरी एंड फार टू वाइड, कि इन लोगों को समझ नहीं आया कि करना क्या है. एंड इसमें एक जो अंडरलाइंग फैक्टर बाहर निकला कि जो which is not an organized global south, but starting from India, of course China तो पहले तो एकदम चुप था. It was only India who started talking. After that China came in, and behind, then the global south started talking. Now you see what the Africans are saying, right? And we've been having very close, काफी हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं अफ्रीका के साथ. आज वो रशिया अफ्रीका की समिट हुई है. 17 African leaders have defied the West and said, बग हम जा रहे हैं. All African nations have a representative in St. Petersburg as we speak. Putin से मिल रहे हैं, हाथ मिला रहे हैं उसके साथ. 17 world leaders are there, African leaders are there.
Leaders, yeah.
तो इससे क्या हुआ है, देखिए, आपने एक जो चीज स्टार्ट करी है कि आपने एक आवाज निकाली, and that's what, see, a lot of people mistake this. हम लोग बोलते हैं we were the voice of the global south. ठीक है, lot of people mistake it, आप लीडर बनना. नो साहब, हमने कभी नहीं बोला हम लीडर बनेंगे. अब इसकी पिचिंग और पोजीशनिंग देखिए, ये बड़ी जबरदस्त थी. Whoever thought about this was I think a very champion. 10 points to him. Voice of the global south. We will become your voice. You tell us what needs to be said and we will say it.
We will deliver that.
ठीक है. And that was a changing factor, if I may say. दूसरी चीज आपने जो करी, which actually upended them a little bit, is that they thought they will hit you on oil. आपने oil लिया and you basically made them dependent on you on oil. इससे देखिए, ये जो टैक्टिकल चीजें हैं, इसके तो 25 एग्जाम्पल, उनकी तरफ से क्या विक्ट्री है, हमारी तरफ से क्या विक्ट्री, इसके ऊपर चल सकते हैं हम लोग, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. मैंने कल 2 घंटे बात करी है जनरल नारायण से. मेरा कहने का जो मतलब है, जो मैं प्योर हिंदी वर्ड यूज करूं तो तात्पर्य है, दिमाग में आ जाता है. मैं थोड़ा आजकल आई एम प्रैक्टिसिंग माय हिंदी, सो
हिंदी.
ठीक है. जो जो मेरा कहने का मतलब है इज वेरी सिंपल, कि साहब आपका जो पोजीशन है आपको क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा. आपको अपनी वैलिडिटी आगे डालनी पड़ेगी कि साहब ऐसा है, दिस इज व्हाट आई कैन गिव, दिस इज व्हाट आई कैन डू. यू ईदर वर्क विद अस और फेयर इनफ आई गो टू द अदर साइड. नाउ इंडिया के पास एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग सा पोजीशन है व्हिच इज कॉल्ड द स्विंग स्टेट. जिस तरफ जाएगा उस तरफ वो पल्ला भारी होगा, बिकॉज ऑफ द शेयर फैक्टर ऑफ द ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी. फाइनल चीज मैं आपको जो बोलूंगा कि एक चीज इंडिया ने बड़ी करेक्ट करी है. दो चीजें हमने बोली, काफी मजाक उड़ता है उसके बारे में, एंड आई डोंट थिंक पीपल हैव अंडरस्टूड. वासुदेव कुटुंबकम, इसका मतलब बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है. वर्ल्ड इज वन फैमिली. आप बोलने को क्या जा रहे हो यार, मेरे को किसी से कोई क्लेम ही नहीं है. आई डोंट वांट हैव एनी एनिमिटीज अगेंस्ट एनीबॉडी. एवरीबॉडी इज माय फैमिली. आई डोंट हैव एनीथिंग. आपका है, मेरा है, सब सेम ही है. डजंट मैटर. व्हाट आर यू ट्राइंग टू डू इज अ काउंटर नैरेटिव टू चाइना. चाइना का एक नैरेटिव क्या है? अथॉरिटेरियन डोमिनेंस. आपका वो नहीं है. आप अपने भारतवर्ष पे जा रहे हो वापस, जहां पर आपका इन्फ्लुएंस था. ठीक है, जब आपके चक्रवर्ती थे जो आपका इन्फ्लुएंस बढ़ाते थे. सो विच इज अ वेरी वेरी क्लियर कॉन्सेप्ट. और ये चीज, दिस इज एन आउटवर्ड कम्युनिकेशन. इंडिया में किसी को समझ में नहीं आया है ये, जो लोग विश्व गुरु पे वो बनाते हैं. देखिए, विश्व गुरु इज नॉट अ लीडर. विश्व गुरु इज समवन दैट कैन गिव वेरी सेज एडवाइस, एंड दैट्स व्हाट वी बीन डूइंग. Modi साहब walks up to Putin and says, "This is not an era of war." Jaishankar साहब walks up and says, "Listen, you please deal with yourself first, and then you come to us, and then we'll deal." He told the Europeans. This positioning that I'm seeing with India today, ये बड़ी interesting है, because this is not going against the world order or against the so-called, जो leaders of these companies and this and that, of these interests, if I may. This is actually hedging your bets against them, not against them, but with them and against them at the same time, to create a certain leverage. ये चीज मेरे को बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग लग रही है, क्योंकि आप देखो, यूएस के साथ आपने इंजन लिया, लेवरेज क्रिएट करने के लिए आपने फ्रांस से ले लिया. यू आर ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट अ हेजिंग बेट विद एवरीथिंग. हेजिंग बेट से क्या होगा? आपको एक सेफ्टी नेट मिल जाएगा. सो दिस इज व्हाट आई सी ऑफ व्हाट इंडिया इज डूइंग. आपके कमेंट्स, एंड देन आफ्टर दैट लेट्स गेट इनटू द क्वेश्चंस. I've just thought about this. काफी हद तक मैं काफी टाइम से सोच रहा हूँ कि ये हमने किया क्या है. हम लोग, कई लोग बोलते हैं यार तुम दोनों तरह से खेल रहे हो. हाँ ठीक है, मान लेते हैं.
and if you and I'm fairly in agreement with you, because एक और यहाँ endorsement वहां से आता है. कहाँ से? If you read FM Jaishankar's book, The India Way, is absolutely categorical. कि बस हमने बहुत देख लिया. There were phases when we were with Soviet Union. There were phases when we were absolutely liberal and all. Now this is a phase where India has to look after its own interests. And given the gravity of situation that we are in a state of flux, first decide कुछ नहीं हुआ है. Are the global elites going to decide on the global order? Is it going to be an empire-based order as China or Russia want? What is it going to be? Based, जब तक final picture na aaye, and I'm sure they, being who they are, political leaders and all, they would have a better idea of the final picture far ahead before we do. It's a call which they'll take then. Till the time that comes in, it's a transactional relationship, and India would do well to maintain that. So that I'm in partial agreement with you. Whatever you said makes perfect sense to me. However, there is a there is a fair warning there. These guys are sleepless. These guys don't sleep. And these guys remind me of that quote that, one empire is dying and another empire is struggling to be born, and now is the time for demons. You
Thank God our
already
government
have
is
a,
also the same. वो नहीं सोते, ये भी नहीं सोते साले. ठीक है,
yeah,
इसको आपस में बैठे रहो यार, हमको सोने दो.
and
No,
you
but seriously,
already
what you're
have
saying
a
is
BlackRock
absolutely
which
correct.
is, and you already
ये
have a BlackRock which is tied up with the Reliance Jio,
yeah,
BlackRock or Vanguard, which एक तो भी हुआ
BlackRock,
होगा,
BlackRock,
एक तो,
BlackRock. They
yeah.
already BlackRock is already got about 5.6% in Reliance.
Yeah.
It's
So these
5.6 or
guys,
5.16. I'm not sure, but it's somewhere around that much.
yeah. So these guys, what I'm trying to say is that these guys don't sleep. These guys are not going to. Let's be frank. Let's admit it. These guys are not going to let India walk out in the open and be a part of the multipolar world if they had their way.
Yeah,
Okay, Modi, no Modi, Congress, UPA, NDA doesn't make a difference. They don't give a rat's ass. Pardon my language. They are not going to allow India to go out and be a part of a multipolar order if they had their way. India is one of their best bets when it comes to keeping India stay in with the side of the global liberal international order, the unipolar order, under the thumb of United States and the West's dominance, where
absolutely,
Indian finances and Indian economy is completely in their hands. अब आगे क्या होता है? Because we live in interesting times. I have no
absolutely,
idea. I have
absolutely.
no idea.
नहीं, but एक चीज है, आपने बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग चीज बोली है. आपको ये तो है नहीं कि भाई आपको रोक नहीं सकते. रोकने की बहुत कोशिश हुई है. ये तो बिल्कुल भी
अभी भी हो रहा
बहुत
है,
अभी भी हो रहा है. आप
आगे भी
इकोनॉमिक.
होंगे.
अच्छा, बाय द वे, बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग से एक आर्टिकल आया था उस दिन,
बोलो.
इसके अंदर, इकोनॉमिक्स के अंदर. ठीक है, कहता है भाई इंडिया एंड चाइना की तो ट्रूस होगी. पर्सन लाइक मी, मैं सुबह 5:30 बजे उठ के चाइना देखता हूँ, यार कुछ हुआ तो नहीं रात को, एवरीथिंग ओके, ये वो ऑल दैट, इट्स अ नेचुरल हैबिट. आई सेड यार ये क्या हुआ? ये क्या हुआ?
कब हो
जॉइंट
गया?
स्टेटमेंट जॉइंट स्टेटमेंट पढ़े दोनों, यार यहाँ तो कुछ लिखा नहीं है, ये क्या है? सो यू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ इंटरनल नैरेटिव आल्सो. तभी आई से दिस बड़ी क्लियरली कि देखिए, कहीं पे भी, इवन ऑन डेफ टॉक्स, जब आप कुछ चीज सुनते हैं, प्लीज जाके रिसर्च करिए उसको.
Yeah. Please do your research.
यू हैव
Please
टू,
do your research.
डोंट टेक एनीथिंग फ्रॉम एनीवन ब्लाइंडली. और मैं तो हमेशा बोलता हूं कि जो भी मेरी प्रेजेंटेशंस हैं, पॉज करके पढ़िए. प्लीज कीप द गूगल ओपन ऑन द साइड. एंड आई कैन सी इन द चैट जो इतने सारे लोग करते हैं, पीपल कीप डूइंग दैट ऑल द टाइम. सो आई एम ग्लैड दैट आइडिया ऑफ रिसर्च विल कम आउट. क्योंकि हम लोग अगर इस तरह से बात करेंगे एज सिटीजन्स, आप यही सोच सकते हैं, ये सिटीजनरी का जब मैसेज ऊपर जाएगा, रेजोनेट करेगा, द कंट्री विल नो. फॉरगेट द लीडरशिप, द कंट्री इटसेल्फ विल नो, यार हमारे सिटीजन्स अभी अकल है लोगों को, क्या कर रहे हैं हम लोग. एंड दैट्स
Being
वेरी
aware.
इंपॉर्टेंट.
Yeah, they are building the awareness. जो अपना काम है बस. Read if it makes sense. Bring it out and reach the maximum number of people as possible. अभी आगे उनको
एब्सोल्युटली,
पढ़ना है. Let them go. Let them do their research and find out.
एब्सोल्युटली. और हमारी आवाज इज गोइंग टू बी द, बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ इट, अगर इफ इट्स इंडियाज वॉइस, इट इज whose voice? It is your voice, it is my voice, it is, I mean, each and every audience member watching, and who will be watching later, and so many other people, it's their voice. तो हमको अपनी आवाज ठीक करनी है. एंड वी हैव टू लुक एट, देखिए, अब मैं बोलूंगा वी हैव टू बी टुगेदर इन दिस एंड दैट. यस, दैट इज ट्रू, बट दैट विल नेवर हैपन, बिकॉज ये टू, हम लोग दो सेपरेट लोग हैं. I mean, between you and me, we will have differences of opinion. That's how
Yes.
normal people are. But that difference of opinion must become a healthier version of actually working for the national interest, rather than actually pulling each other's trousers down. That is the problem हमारे कंट्री के अंदर, कि हम लोग वो सोच नहीं पा रहे हैं कि अभी. एंड आई थिंक देयर इज अ सर्टेन चेंज इन द थॉट प्रोसेस. धीरे धीरे करके आएगा. बड़ा जबरदस्त लंबा चौड़ा देश है हमारा, इतने सारे लोग हैं, धीरे धीरे करके आएगा. बट देर आए दुरुस्त आए. वी वेस्टेड अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम, 60-70 years वी वेस्टेड. आज भी आ जाए तो चलिए, कुछ अच्छा हो जाए तो why not? Future generations
Absolutely.
should benefit. So let's get
Absolutely.
into the questions, guys. Is there anything else you want to add in before I throw
No,
the
no,
floor
no.
open for some
Let's
questions?
go to the question part.
Awesome.
We
Guys, before I do,
yeah.
sorry.
Are we saying like closing? We are reaching 1.5 hours.
Yeah, yeah. So guys, before I do, please like the video. Very, very critical. आपको like करेंगे तो आप, you'll be able to actually reach a larger audience, and you need to help Dev Talks doing that. ठीक है? So that's my humble request to you. Of course, subscribe. Those of you, I see a lot of new faces today. Please subscribe to the channel. We keep doing these kind of conversations with a lot of people, and I'll be happy that you're all a part of that. And of course, yes, if you want to contribute towards the Dev Talks efforts, the QR code is up there. You can send us a super sticker or become a member of the channel as well. By the way, we are at 96 members. Another 4 more, and we will touch 100 memberships for Dev Talks. Thank you so much, all of you guys who've been there in this particular group. First, RG, thank you so much for your contribution. He says, considering the synchronicity and patterns of events, it seems like a multi-century simulation of ideas in probabilistic quantum word.
My goodness.
बाप रे बाप, आपने तो खेल दिया. You're absolutely right, but you've put it across in a very, very interesting way, I must say.
See, but what happens is, once you breathe life into an idea, it over a period of time it mutates. तो इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू कंट्रोल. तो ये नहीं कह सकते कि पिछले कुछ सेंचुरी से कंट्रोल होते आ रहा है. बट या दिस मच इज डेफिनेटली ट्रू that the old families that Aadi keeps talking about, that Aadi has talked about in Jaipur Dialogues and in this channel itself, they have been exercising control over their empire that they have built, exercising control over their money. So when you talk about a city of London, that's a very tight-knit society. When you talk about let's say a Bilderberg group, a very tight-knit group. Talk about Trilateral Commission, absolutely tight-knit. At times they control the politician. At times that they do actually. All these presidents and prime ministers and all are controlled by them. However, having said that, do they manage to successfully control each and every small incident and events that happen? No, absolutely not. It's not possible. They improvise. Like United States breathed life into the jihadi factors of Afghanistan. उसके बाद जो हुआ, United States couldn't control that.
वो बोलते हैं ना,
लादेन बन गया और
यूज किया ना उसको.
use किया. And then the moment this Mujahideen becomes Islamic jihadis and this starts spilling out, then that's something which you don't control. You cannot control.
Yeah.
So what you do is you improvise. So these people have been improvising, and yes, these people are masters of improvisation, which is what explains how they've managed to sort of keep the control right from, I don't know, 10th century AD. ये तो 2023 है.
1091.
1091, when the nomads became the elites. From then
Yeah,
to
I mean,
now.
the William the Conqueror ki jo, when William the Conqueror came into the London area, it was 1060.
1060.
And yeah, by 1067 the struggle was over, and by 1080 they came up with it took them 20 years to come up with an agreement, by the way.
बस तो
And then they
1100
said,
पकड़ो.
हाँ, तो 1190 तक जाके it became a commune, the city of London, the corporation of London जो थी. And that's how the story started. उसका East India Company के साथ connect है, ये है, वो है, बहुत सारा. There's a whole lot of tamasha right there. Okay, so Suborto Day, thank you so much for your super sticker. And you also have a question, so let's take that up. In the light of what you're saying, where does Vivek Ramaswamy stand, who's a Republican candidate for the President of America?
One of my favorite
Globalized elections, huh?
guys. Yeah, I covered Vivek Ramaswamy's when he announced his candidacy.
Yeah.
Back in this year. RT है ना, Russia Today. Russia Today channel, they invited me for a small interview. I covered Vivek Ramaswamy's announcement of his candidature. I quite like that guy. He's the one guy that actually is responsible for a lot of things that I've said today. Because Vivek Ramaswamy wrote this book called Woke Incorporated. How wokeism has come into how corporates culture has has cascaded a marriage of convenience between corporatism and wokeism, and how that affects United States. Vivek is a very strong candidate. He's a very strong candidate. Vivek is a very high IQ, strong guy, but his chances of winning are very low because, boss, if he wins, then the establishment goes for a toss. You have to understand that. The elites don't want him to come to power. So while I like Vivek a lot, and while there is a lot of respect for him, I frankly speaking, I have doubts if he would survive,
Even
if he
across
would
the
become a
primaries.
president. Yeah, अगर हो जाता है तो एकदम भयंकर, मतलब it's a damn good thing, but I don't think he would manage.
He's not controllable, na?
Yeah, he's not controllable.
Hmm. Actually, guys, I'm sorry, but I'm going to take an out of turn question of Kumud. This is a very interesting question. Is the West behind the deep state or under it?
It's under it. बस डीप स्टेट अगर इसको बोलते हो डीप स्टेट, तो यहाँ पे ना देर इज नो सिंगल एथनिसिटी और रिलीजन और क्लैन. दैट इज व्हाई आई सेड दैट आई डोंट वांट टू नेम, बिकॉज आई डोंट हैव अ नेम फॉर दिस गाइस. तुम ग्लोबल एलिट्स पकड़ के चलो. ओके, so a global elite is a global elite. There could be a Parsi sitting there, there could be a Christian sitting there, there could be a Jew sitting there, there
It
could be
doesn't
a Han
matter.
Chinese and Arab sitting there. It doesn't matter. They control the money and they decide बस किसको कहाँ देना है, किसको क्या करना है. So yes, West is completely, वेस्ट को तुम्हें सच बात बोलो, इफ आई एम अलाउड टू जोक अ लिटिल, मेरे को तो लगता नहीं कि ये लोग के प्रेसिडेंट को भी वो लोग अपना मीटिंग रूम में घुसते देता है कि भाई तू बाहर वेट कर, जो डिसीजन लिया जाएगा तेरे को बता
वो
देंगे.
काउंसिल ऑफ फॉरेन रिलेशंस का हेड
या
रिचर्ड हेस, वो
या
उठता है, बैग पैक करता है और सीधा रशियंस के साथ गप्पे मारनी शुरू कर देता है. बाइडेन
एग्जैक्टली.
देख रहा है इधर उधर, भाई ये क्या हुआ.
कहाँ से हो
दैट्स
गया.
हाउ इट इज. दैट्स हाउ इट इज. आई मीन आप ये चीज देख लो. ये यू नो ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग सा फिनोमेना है. आई थिंक इट इज अ वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन. दैट्स व्हाई आई वांटेड टू टेक इट एट द बिगिनिंग.
हाँ,
Adi
and
sir, if
this
possible,
this needs to be clarified. Like good question.
yeah, Adi sir, if possible, link Arindam ji's article. Thanks. So when you write it, please do send it to me. I'll link it with in
Oh
the
no, I
description of the
think
show.
Mr. Sundaram has read my article. I think I said this came out just about a couple of days back in the New Indian. I sent you the link. बाद में उसमें
Okay, that one I'll put it on the.
yeah.
मैं एक काम करता हूँ.
Global
I will
chaos and
just yeah. That one I've read. What I will do is,
उसका
guys,
उसका
मैं
ना
इसको
उसका एक और बहुत डिटेल में है, which is in Substack, क्योंकि this article that came out in New Indian has been heavily edited, क्योंकि उसमें तो वर्ड लिमिट होता है ना, 900 वर्ड, 1000 वर्ड ऐसा होता है.
हाँ, तो
Substack
आप
में
वो
मेरा एक
भेज दो ना
आर्टिकल,
मेरे को.
मैं
I will.
Substack वाला लिंक, हाँ, I'll send across to you.
And for the time being, my New Indian wala bhi article, I'm going to put it in the description. So have a read if anybody wants to. Yeah.
Please do.
Right. Communism always flourish in chaos. I mean, I don't know if I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I don't know if you meant it as a simple question, because I'll take it as a very deep question. And if you have any comments, otherwise, I'd like to actually take this up.
Yeah, please
The issue
take
with
it up.
communism is the current form of the setup or the structure that Arindam has actually very nicely brought out today. If you see the structure that they want, the closest form of that structure is actually a communist structure. Okay? The power remains within a few and the rest are used for a purpose. Now there's this big joke. You know, the Lenin wanted to create something called the Soviet man, right? They said he doesn't have an ethnicity, he doesn't have a culture, he doesn't have religion, he has nothing. He's a Soviet man. So when 1991 came, and the Soviet Union broke down, somebody was standing in Moscow and asked, where is the Soviet man? And they said, which man? There are Estonians, there are Latvians, there are Lithuanians, there are Ukrainians, there are Georgians, there are Polish. There's no Soviet man. So even communism, as per se, could not achieve that with such a hardlined setup as the Soviet Union itself.
As the Soviets.
And even in China, they've not been able to achieve it. So what I look at it is this whole global structure is another form of a Marxist communist sort of an ideology that is being followed. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you are right. Capitalism has to survive. If capitalism has to survive, it needs communism. Capitalism
Fantastic.
can only flourish under communism. Look at China.
Sun Yat-sen's book, The Use of Capitalism to Enhance Socialism.
Oh,
He wrote
acha,
this book
acha.
in 1922. He wrote this book. the international order and China.
uh,
तो वो मतलब लिटरली इन सीसीपी की बाइबल है वो। उसने वहां पे भी ये, उस बुक में बंदे ने इतना लिखा हुआ है कहां पर पोर्ट बनाना है, किधर पे ब्रिज बनेगा, किधर पे रेलवे लाइन बनेगी।
hmm,
एंड these
goodness.
guys have followed it to the letter यार। 1922 that guy wrote the book. Now I know there are Chinese people watching, ठीक है, मेरे चैनल को काफी देखते हैं लोग। मैं एक ही चीज बोलूंगा यार, sun Yat-sen तो ताइवान वाला है ना।
नहीं, मत करो।
अरिंदम का दामन आज, ओ यार
अरिंदम
ये
दा
तो
কেমন আছো? তোমার analysis খুব ভালো লাগে, please frequently এসো আদিদার channel. So thank you very much, AP. I'll try to come, but Adi has got a good large number of very
नहीं
distinguished
नहीं,
guests that yeah.
this is a
So
relationship that will go on, so let's not worry
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
we'll keep coming. But thanks for
But
the
Batraji,
mention.
nice to see you again today afternoon. I missed you yesterday in the show, sir. But sir, European Union is failing in its objective and couldn't defend Ukraine and is heavily dependent on USA for its defense. Can I add, was that the purpose?
Dekho, I watched this show, your show, some other day. Somebody came in, a gentleman came in who said that that America's intention was to, dismantle EU and all. I slightly disagree with that. As I said, कुछ देर पहले जो question किया था ना, and I said that if you're talking about a social engineering project, which when you breathe life into it, it mutates and it acquires a shape, and you have to improvise, which is precisely what
Ji.
happened in Ukraine. When Russian army walked in, they thought it is a walkover game. हम लोग यूं जाएंगे, यूं पहुंच जाएंगे कीव में. When that did not happen and the Ukrainian resistance was pretty good, they immediately improvised. Which was, if you've been watching Ukraine, it was like clearly visible in the way they changed their tactics. They immediately went onto the Donetsk and Luhansk area. They set up their fortification. They changed their priorities, and that is how they went. They started going slower. The same way United States, when they thought कि यार यूक्रेनियन तो एकदम तोड़ फोड़ कर देंगे, जब नहीं हुआ, and when they realized that this is going to be a long drawn war, then they improvised and they sort of shifted their focus to Europe, and then they started thinking of destroying this and destroying that, and Nord Stream ko toro and isko maro. Added on to that, now I wouldn't say this was a part of the plan, but now that they have realized that there's no way Europe can get out of this economic mess that it has like kind of gotten in the near future, that it is going to take a long time. What they're trying to do is they're trying to, in the name of ESG and all this green energy and all, they're trying to shift the entire industry, whatever industries Europe has, into United States. Because China से तो industry जाएगा नहीं. They have already lost the productive economy to China. अब करना क्या है, अभी जो यूरोप में है, अगर उसको वहां बैक यूएस में ले जा पाए, तो we could salvage some amount of productive economy. So that is what they are trying to do. Did they have this in mind right from the start? No. Did they improvise? Yes. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely, it does. Piyush, thank you so much for your contribution. He says, where does the idea of Akhand Bharat fit in, along with the paths of Indian pushback to the deep state? What is the timeline that one could look at potentially? Jai Hind.
Adi, this is your area.
I look at Akhand Bharat not as a acquisition. I look at Akhand Bharat as influence. So the Akhand Bharat concept has to change. It's not physical holding of territory anymore, and that's something which I kind of feel very strongly about. It has to have more of an influential factor wherein states around you are working with you rather than for you, and that's the difference between the Indian way or the Bharatiya way of doing things and the Western way of doing things. That's all I would want to say. Anything?
Because frankly, I don't see where this fits in with the discussion that we are having. So I would like to keep it focused on this only, the global
Absolutely.
orders and the deep state and the global chaos.
Mandar says, "Hey man, nice to have you with the on the lives after a long time, bro. The problem with the post World War II European states is that they were bureaucracy rather than idea centric. Bureaucracy centric rather than idea centric.
Yeah, they were made that way. They were made that way. As I said, that the very structure of European Union was prepared in a way that you don't have much of a responsibility. Decision तुम लोगों को कुछ लेना नहीं है. Decision will be taken somewhere else. You guys just drive the show. You guys have a bureaucracy which is very strong, very well-rounded, very well managed, and things like that. And that's just what you do. You remain as a trading bloc, remain happy. No armies, don't fight war. We take care of your security responsibility. We take care of your decision-making responsibility. We do everything. तुमको कुछ नहीं करना. They were happy that way. They had a hell of a good time, a big run, a good run for 45, 50, 60 years. Now, it's like times have changed.
Our next podcast should be the next question.
What?
When will oil money lose its luster, and how will the Muslim world, along with the Arabs, react? So, how will the Middle East change? This should be our next podcast.
Oh my God. Acha.
There's a big
Okay.
question, and I must say, Mr. Desai, Miss Desai, amazing. I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for this idea. I'm actually just going
So
to
we keep
screenshot
it
and
for our
keep it.
next podcast. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to hold a complete podcast on your question. Because this is a very big question. It's not छोटा सा question. ये बहुत बड़ा सवाल है, तो इसको बड़े ध्यान से हमको इसके बारे में बात करनी पड़ेगी.
इस
RG
क्वेश्चन को कहीं
says,
पे तुम ना रिकॉर्ड करके रख दो
कर
because
दिया,
otherwise
screenshot करके रख लिया
अच्छा कर
मैंने.
लिया. Okay.
The Russia-Ukraine war appears to be a constant axis around which all the shift is happening.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, because the West made the mistake of showing its eggs, what all eggs they have and which all baskets they have. The West made the mistake.
अब वो है ना, ये
And
ताश नहीं
I,
खेलते ना. दिवाली पे
सब
जैसे हम लोग
clash
ताश खेलते हैं, ये खेलते नहीं है.
and for this I blame their planning department. I mean, after Kissinger, I keep saying, I said this to you before as well. After Kissinger and Brzezinski and all the planners and Kennan and all, West doesn't have a good planner here. अरे ठीक है यार, तुम लोगों ग्लोबल एलिट रूल कर रहा है, दे आर डिसाइडिंग योर फाइनेंसेस, दे आर डिसाइडिंग ऑन एवरीथिंग, बट कम से कम दिखाने के लिए दो चार अच्छा प्लानर लाओ भाई.
By the
People
way,
who can
Kissinger
manage
was
on
part of
stage.
that elite, huh? He
Kissinger has
still could
become a
do.
part of. But Kissinger is not the guy who's standing there and making decisions which people are watching. ना वो तो अभी behind the door चला गया है.
Yeah.
Brzezinski मर गया है. I'm just saying a couple of people who were prominent क्या बोले, American political faces. Now either they were advisors or they were think tankers or they were like very close to the president, secretary of state and things like that. अभी देखो तुम, ये even I've got a lot of respect for these people. This क्या नाम है उसका? Friedman, George Friedman. Yeah, George Friedman and Robert Kaplan. Guys are phenomenally brilliant guys. They're superb speakers, brilliant writers. But the thing is that their Western tilt is very visible. अब ये भी हम लोगों को पता है कि they do it because they have to keep the establishment happy. Now these guys, they are running their own think tank, कुछ यहाँ कुछ वहाँ. These guys are infinitely better suited to sort of come in the front and take decisions as far as United States is concerned, rather than the jokers that you have right now. तो ये लोग को utilize करो. John Mearsheimer, another guy who I mentioned quite a lot and who I'm quite proud, I mean fond of. This guy is another prolific thinker. यार ये लोग को utilize करो. जिंदा है, अच्छा
I don't think
है.
Jeffrey Sachs is, but I mean Jeffrey Sachs has a terrible history, so one has to keep that into consideration.
So
he
yes,
was the guy who delivered Poland to the West. After the Soviet Union broke down, he was the guy who was sent into Poland. He literally brought Poland into a platter and gave it to the US. The whole new Europe concept, जो नया Europe का concept अभी जो बन रहा है, the old versus new sort of a thing, it's all him. So it's very interesting. The next are two questions.
Please.
Sorry. The next are two questions, and these are the last ones. Both have similar lines, so just allow me this thing to just go through both of them. VKC says, sir, how should India prepare for this kind of a threat in the future? What are the ways? That's one. And Anil Saab says, can we be there when our economy will reach $5 trillion to control these deep state?
First question. Dekho, this also gives me a chance to sort of go back to one of our previous podcasts. I was reading the comments. There were three kinds of comments which I found interesting. One type of comment was the one that called you and me Hindutva something right wing Hindutva guy pretending to be liberal. So I like, yeah, मेरे दिमाग में जो आया actually, तो उसको तो मैं address कर ही नहीं रहा हूँ. There is another kind of couple of comments which I saw, which sort of assume that I am very unhappy with the partition of India, and I would have loved India to remain the way it was pre-independence, pre-partition. So uska bhi, no, I am not. I don't know what made that person feel that I am anti-partition. Anything that I am anti was that the botched up population exchange that didn't take place. This should have been a clean population exchange, which didn't take place. But anyway, the third type of question that I encountered reminded me of this question: is that what needs to be done? Boss, frankly speaking, as I said, I am not a high IQ genius. I am just an average person like you all. I read, I understand a little bit, I share it. So, abhi kya karna hai? It's very difficult for me to say that, how should India prepare for this kind of a threat? Whatever little I am seeing, and Adi might disagree with me here, whatever little I am seeing, I'm not seeing very good signs, frankly, if I can be frank. You know, I am seeing that there is a certain amount of infiltration which has taken place already. I'm not going to name the institutions because this podcast is there in the public, and there are a lot of bad things happening to a lot of weak people like us, people who don't have political background, so on and so forth. So there are certain institutions which have been infiltrated. There is a certain amount of wokeism which has seeped in, and which has seeped in big places. तो अगर मैं डीप स्टेट हूँ बस, अगर if I'm a part of the global elite which is running with a special focus on India, and if I want to destabilize the country, if wokeism is my tool, then I am doing a pretty good job. If India has to preempt this kind of a threat, the very first thing again is why channels like Dev Talks would probably be viewed more and more. The very first thing that you need to, at the onset, even before you start anything, is build awareness. Share karo, spread karo, talk to people. Build the awareness. You don't have to tell them what to do. You just tell them कि boss ये हो रहा है, तुमको पता भी है.
देखो अपने आप.
Share the video.
Correct.
Share this kind of videos where there are in-depth discussions. Okay, कि क्या हो रहा था, because Indian people have generally become very provincial.
Yeah.
ये मोदी, अरविंद केजरीवाल, राहुल गांधी वगैरह फलाना टिपना लेके घूमते रहते हैं. India has a major part to play as far as the global structure is concerned, as far as the global contours is concerned. वहाँ पे क्या role है उसको समझने के लिए you need to first understand the global contours.
Yes.
इतना भी कर लेना, half of the क्या बोलते हैं उसको 15 to 25 years age का population, half of the population भी कर लेना, that will be a huge thing.
India अरे कोई खड़ा नहीं हो पाएगा आपके सामने.
उसी में तुम देखना कि आप तुम्हारा वहां से 20-25 आइडिया निकल आएगा हाउ टू काउंटर डीप स्टेट, जो मेरे दिमाग में नहीं आएगा तुम्हारे दिमाग में भी नहीं आएगा. You guys are smart. You guys will find out a way. Just build that awareness first. Is what I want to say.
Absolutely, I think you've hit the. And you were saying I'm going to disagree. I don't. I actually agree with you. I'll actually add to what you're saying. This battle cannot be fought by 1, 2, or 3. It's not possible. You cannot do that. Right? The battle is all about awareness, and if you're in touch with your reality, okay, that is the way to do it. You have to know your roots, you have to know your realities, you have to know what's happening in the world to actually understand it. And मैं last चीज ये बोलूंगा इसके बारे में कि you said हम लोग बड़े provincial हैं, and that's one of the reasons why I don't discuss politics on this channel.
Okay.
I don't discuss it because this politics of this country is dirty, is pathetic, to make us look inward all the time. क्योंकि इन लोगों को पता है with a rich culture, with a rich history, and with a rich understanding of things, we are very strategic people at the end of it. हम लोग बाहर की तरफ देखने शुरू हो गए ना, जैसे you said, half the population also understands what's happening. कोई रोक नहीं पाएगा आपको. And I am so confident of that. So what you're saying is absolutely spot on.
एक चीज मेरे को ऐड करना है. I've been thinking about the question. See, service nomads, global nomads, outsiders versus settled societies. Outsiders have always capitalized on you as in the settled society.
Yeah.
You find out a way, by which you can stop this capitalization, you have a winner in your hand.
Absolutely.
अब इसको लेके आप लोग सोचो. If I'm an outsider, if I'm a global nomad, if I'm a global elite, and you are a settled society, I have to depend on you, not the other way around. Push comes to shove, you have your zameen, you have your cattle, you can survive. I cannot survive. How do you ensure that? अभी मेरे दिमाग में नहीं है, आप लोग सोचो.
नहीं नहीं,
That's all I have
एब्सोल्युटली.
to say.
एंड हम लोग ना बड़ा ये वो गवर्नमेंट करेगी क्यों भाई?
नहीं नहीं,
गवर्नमेंट कौन है?
government,
गवर्नमेंट भी आप हो, मैं हूं, हर कोई है.
our
गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं
government
करेगी,
anyway is weak. Nation
हमको
states
करना
का
है ये.
government anyway is weak these
So
days.
we have to do all this stuff, right? It's not anything else. And last one, Arun, thank you so much for your contribution. Please suggest reading material for world history.
Oh God. कहाँ से शुरू करें? There's so many यार. टॉनी जट से शुरू करो. टॉनी
Yeah,
जट,
Tommy Jat is a good
पोस्ट
place
वॉर.
to start. Hmm.
Post war, you can start that. You can wait. Let me minimize and let me give you a couple of numbers from my laptop
तो
screen.
आप वहां से करते हो. मैं एक चीज बोलूंगा, you know how I started. I was not a very history this thing. I picked up a topic that I liked. Right, I was
Hmm.
very interested in the Second World War. I picked up
Hmm.
a topic that I liked, and then I dug deeper into it. And then I went into the German history, the American history, and this and that. And that's how you kind of build your this thing. अगर आप history पढ़नी शुरू करोगे, it's very boring.
No,
So
it
pick
is
up a
it
subject that you
actually.
like, and then dwell on all angles of that particular subject. You'll probably get a little more, inquisitiveness to actually get inside more things. My suggestion would be that.
I think that's the way that, because I was going through my PDF का collection. इसमें बहुत कुछ है यार. लेविन श्रॉम से शुरू करके इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन से शुरू करके कहाँ कैसे बोलेंगे, ऐसे क्रोनोलॉजिकली बताना भी मुश्किल हो जाएगा. आप टॉनी जट से शुरू करो. एंड पोस्ट वॉर नाम है. इट्स अ फैक्ट बुक. स्टार्ट रीडिंग इट. यू वुड फाइंड लॉट ऑफ रिलेटेड टॉपिक्स जिसमें आपका इंटरेस्ट बिल्डअप
Yeah.
होगा, तो आप उससे पे पढ़ना शुरू करो. And you've got a treasure
Second,
trove of free PDFs available across the net, so nothing to
yeah,
worry
yeah. And if you ever want any suggestions on China, let me know. I read a lot
about.
from China.
Yes, yes, yes. Talk to Aadi.
Uh, Arindam Saab, thank you so much. This has been an afternoon well spent. I think all the we had close to
Thank
we
you
had
for having
500 plus people actually. As a matter of fact, we still have about
me. Wow.
460 people watching. So
Wow.
it's a fantastically successful podcast. I'm sure a lot more people are going to watch it.
Thank you.
I congratulate you for your research and this conversation that we've had. And I think this is very interesting because we need to keep it as at a conversational level so that people also understand कि लोगों को भी थोड़ा मैसेज जाएगा. जैसे आप लोग बोल रहे हो कि स्प्रेड होना चाहिए.
Yeah.
It should spread like that only through conversations. अरुण साहब का एक और contribution है. He says, please share your PDFs with Adi. I will take it. Okay.
Okay, I'll share. I'll share.
All
I'll
right.
share.
Uh,
I'll
so
share 10-15 of my favorite PDFs with Adi. Adi, आप share करते रहो.
जी. See, the point that I'm trying to get at is these conversations. अभी हम लोग 400-500 लोग बैठे हैं. ये 500 लोग आगे जाके कुछ बोलेंगे, वो 500 आगे जाके कुछ बोलेंगे, and that's how the story will build. And that's all I'm trying to
Yeah,
do at
yeah.
Dev Talk. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey here. And I hope to, uh, latch on to you once again. And our next topic is already decided and announced, by the
Decided.
way. So
All right.
thanks so much. And till next time, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you for having me. Thanks to the viewers.